Heyo! Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well on this Wednesday. Welcome to another Wine Shark Wednesday. It is I, your host, the Wine Shark. Hope everybody is having an excellent week. We are doing all kinds of fun things as usual here at Wine Shark Central. There's been lots going on of just simple. I've been playing around with technical stuff today, so we're going to try out new things. And assuming that, unlike last week, I'm not going to break the camera or possibly even the live stream. So there's that. But what else have we got? We're going to be talking about some new products. I got some new ideas came through. So that's kind of fun. I'll tell you about those in a minute. I want to say hello to everybody. Hello to Miss Donna Den, Miss Mary and David from the frigid north. Hey, we've even got a moderately frigid south here. It's actually like 32, 34 degrees outside. I'm sure that means it's probably negative bazillion where you are, but still, for us here in North Texas, it's an actual wintry day. So it's kind of nice. But yeah, I've been busy, brain all over the place, doing all kinds of thinking and ideas. And I told you guys last week we've got some shows upcoming here in the near. Here's Angela Carter. Well, hello there. I've got some new events coming up this weekend. We're going to do a beer and wine show down at Reunion Tower with events with Amy, but that got me thinking about the whole St. Valentine's Day holiday and date night wine things, and I came up with an idea for doing date night wine packages. Kind of a very short show, effectively, just a real 30-minute show with yours truly. Come in, bring in some awesome wine, a nice little charcuterie boards, a couple of glasses, get laid out a nice little cheese and charcuterie, kind of describe what's going on with the wines, and then clap my hands and vanish like a bad dream, so that if people could enjoy their evenings. And we got the first prototypes of those done. Oh yeah, here they are. Check these out. We've got our very own little WineShark. So this little nice little cutting board will be part of a souvenir that gets left behind, plus a couple of crystal glasses, a little bit smaller style, but they're the Schatzwiesel crystal that I use. They're actually the Sauvignon Blanc style, so they're a little bit smaller than this, but perfect for everyday use and remembering WineShark on the weekdays. So kind of cool. Those I will be featuring those and getting some more promotions done here pretty soon. But you are able to buy them on wineshark.com right now, should you so choose. So that's kind of neat. And then I've got another idea bubbling specifically regarding cutting boards and the idea of making a really cool charcuterie. So you'll look for that here coming up soon. I've got to refine a few of the details, but expect a project of that. That one is a no Wine Shark presence required. In other words, it'll be a cool little merch purchase that you guys will get to support me with that way. Then I've also been thinking about a couple of other merchandising ideas. For those of you that want to wear Wine Shark colors, put up some of my artwork for the t-shirts and bumper stickers that we had before. So anyway, all kinds of cool stuff in the bubbly little brain of yours truly. In other news, apparently cedar waxwings are returning here to Texas and are getting drunk in North Texas. They are eating the overripe slash fermented grapes that are left over after the harvest in areas like Grapevine, and the little buggers are getting wasted on the alcohol present in the fruit. You can tell they're drunk because they're not very good at drinking and flying. They tend to fly into things like walls and windows. So if a small waxwing bird, they're about yay big or so, runs smacking into your window, you'll probably want to check his blood alcohol content. The good news is if they don't kill themselves with flying accidents, their little bodies are totally able to actually process the alcohol with their tiny little livers, and they will be fine as long as they don't break their necks running into your screen door. So there we go. Anyway, thought that was a fun bit of news to share. But today we are going to be talking about books. We're going to get book smart and wine wise. I've listened to books on tape when I drive. One of the things that I do and enjoy driving anywhere. And not like I get to drive a lot of places, but when the dogs and I go to the dog park, I listen to various books on tape. Well, one of the books on tape that I have been re-listening to is Jay McInerney's The Juice, which is a series of his essays that he wrote regarding wine topics. But that kind of got me in the mindset of other books that are educational, purposeful, and great for learning about wine. So I decided to kind of revisit the subject and kind of do a little bit more in-depth thing on my 5 favorite wine books, which The other interesting thing is not all of them are actually about wine. So let's dive into it. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. So we're going to kind of review each one of these in turn. We're going to talk about my personal experience with them. We're going to talk about what they're good for, and then some of the cons that come along with each one of them as far as the purposes are concerned. So, as always, I welcome your comments and questions in the chat. In fact, I want you guys to think of a food or food topic that I'm going to use later in the show to look up something when we get later in the show. So think about that. Put your comments down there in chat. But let's go ahead and get started with some images. Let's take a look here at The Wine Avenger. I've mentioned this book many times before. This is a book that got me started early in my wine career, specifically when I was waiting tables and learning about wine professionally. I had been a fan of wine and grown up around wine for years, but when I really started getting into the hobby of wine and the real understanding of this, I received this as a Christmas present from my younger sister. And I really enjoyed this book and what it had to offer. It set me on a path of becoming even more interested and more committed to the topic that I had already shown a little interest in. It had a great option about a lot of wine humor. And overall, Gluckstern, sorry, I always pronounce that wrong. Willie Gluckstern is a great, fun, approachable entry into wine as a topic. So, what is it good for? It's great for light reading. It's great for wine humor. It's great at I want to say about a 10,000-foot view of wine overall, and especially how wine interacts with you as a consumer. A lot of Willie used to be a wine critic and not a critic, but he used to build wine menus and worked within the industry in New York City, and has some very interesting and tales and lessons to learn through that. So there's very good coverage of certain topics in a broad scale of sense when it talks about specific grapes or areas, things like that. Very brief kind of highlight pointing. There's also a really cool categorical approach to wine and food pairing that set me off on that journey as well. I really like the way he kind of bundled things together with very brief examples, very easy to read, very easy to consume. I mean, the book is only a couple hundred pages long. It's really just a great read. So I highly encourage it. It is just, it's easy to find. And by the way, I'm going to put links to all the books in the comments section, or in the comments of the description. I will put those up there for the end of the show as soon as I get done with this. So anyway, what are the cons? The only con of this particular book is that it is very designed at editorial. It is Willie's opinion, and Willie's bias very much comes out of, it's part of the charm of the book. It is the authorial voice that he uses, and it's very critical to the content that he selected to be important. But it's clearly his expert take on wine, so it's only one man's view kind of thing, rather than a more clinical, educational style of view. I would point this to you if you're interested in wine and just want a nice light read. It'll give you some great ideas, and it's a great book, but it is not a reference that I use very often professionally anymore. I recommend it to early wine drinkers to say, hey, check this out if you really want to get involved. Go read Wine Avenger. Really cool stuff. So it's a hybrid of educational and entertainment, so it doesn't really serve you as a student really well. For instance, if you're in the study of wine, if you want to become a sommelier, be in the industry, it's not laid out in such a way that it is easy to reference as a learner. So just, it's more of a motivating book. So kind of cool. Again, the con not being that it wasn't written to be so that's not a criticism of they missed the point. It's just not what it's useful for. All right, so then let's talk next about our man. We've got Oz Clarke and the New Encyclopedia of Wine. So this was my first, hang on, we got a preview there. This was my first example in my professional career where I started getting into looking for a depth of knowledge and good reference material. This is just before I started to test for my sommelier certification with the Court of Master Sommeliers America, and this was one of their reading lists amongst several others. This was the one of the books that I read. I liked this as a very approachable, well organized, encyclopedic approach to wine. So, again, what is it good for? Well, it is good for those that are trying to learn about wine in that technical, functional fashion. It's good for exactly what it says on the cover. It's an encyclopedia. It shows you A to Z kind of what the world of wine is. Now, again, the book is not wildly, huge. It's not like a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas, so it does have limits on what it is good for. But it's a great overview. Again, this is a great 30,000-foot view that covers regions, history, grape styles, winemaking, storage. It's got very comprehensive look at wine, but it also has some name recognition as well. For instance, many of the major producers and things that you should be looking for. In other words, people that made stuff famous, which we like. So it is definitely a recommend in that category when you're trying to learn about wine at that level. This is not necessarily the intro level. This is where you start getting into the, okay, I want this. Or if you're just a wine geek and like to have reference material to go look up something or look for new ideas, it can be very useful for that too. The only con of this, the couple of cons actually, is one, is it kind of suffers from the problem of our internet and information age. And that is, books going out of date as far as information is concerned happens fairly quickly. And wine is a very dynamic industry. So it does suffer a little bit from dated material. It's hard to find good try this ideas because sometimes you'll look for something or some producer that no longer either exists or isn't available or is really kind of hyper specific. So that can be a partial con, but when it comes to looking at things at that high level view, it's a great place to start. The only thing is, I think that now what you would do is you would take this as a source of information and then back it up with readily referenceable and quality material you could find elsewhere on the internet, multiple sources, things like that. Okay. So definitely one to check out. Now, we also kind of you already saw the preview of our next there. We've got probably my favorite, arguably so. We've got Wine Folly. This is the original. This is actually, I'm summing this up as one total. This was the original book. It's called The Essential Guide to Wine, and the one that I began with by Madeline Paquette and Justin Hammock. And they are awesome at combining wine and graphic design. This is the newer, more current, and James Beard award-winning Magnum edition of Wine Folly's Master Guide. So this is not just an improvement on the first, but it's truly a distillation, expansion, and again, it is well worth owning both of them in my personal opinion. But if I had to pick just one, the Magnum edition is definitely the one you want to work to. So where did this come into it in my experience? This is about the midpoint of my wine career. I ran across the first edition of the book, the Essential Guide, and was immediately taken with the dramatic, impactful, graphically appealing nature of the book. Both Madeline and Justin, I believe, and certainly Justin, I know, has a experience and a background in graphic design. So communicating visually was something that connected with me personally because I also had a background in graphic design when I was in college. So their approach to information sharing was very different than a lot of the encyclopedic, long-worded, even the best examples of maps, etc. In the previous editions paled to what I think Wine Folly has accomplished during their career. I have ultimate respect for their ability to share information well. They're approachable, they're fun, they're practical, they're technical, they're technically accurate, and they're just flat out beautiful books to own. Their maps series, you guys have seen me use their flavor affinity wheels on the show a lot. I'm wearing my Wine Folly t-shirt. Can't say, huge fan, just gotta say. And of course, Madeline is my not so secret wine crush. I think this is because she kind of reminds me of one of my characters in one of my favorite movies, which we will go ahead and share now, since we're like all about sharing technical weirdness. So
Oh, hey, good morning. I thought I saw you come in here. We met last night. Remember, I had the sled with me. I'm Jordan. Oh, here, I made you a sweater. Last night? Yeah, it's just something I do with my hands. I hope I got the size right. I'm pretty sure I did. I have a brother, and I use him for sizing comparison. And I have a pretty good eye for that sort of thing, so I just went ahead and made you one because, I was up. Are you peeing? Yeah. Oh, I never sleep. I don't know what. I had a roommate, and I drove her nuts. I mean, really nuts. They had to take her away in an ambulance and everything. But she's okay now. But she had to transfer to an easier school. But I don't know if that had anything to do with being my fault. But listen, if you ever need to talk, you need help studying, just let me know because I'm just a couple doors down from you guys, and I never sleep. Okay? Thanks. I will. Are you done? I can't start. Because I'm here? I think so. Weird. Yeah. Well, I have to go. Me too. Bye.
absolute classic from Real Genius. Madeline kind of reminds me a little bit of Jordan in that she is frenetic, she's high energy, she's just fun, and really brings her particular spark to the wine world. So take that with all the compliments in the world from yours truly. I think that Wine Folly is certainly a place to go. The only you know con that I have for this, because when I say that, it is both practical application, technical application, it's fantastic graphic design and information exchange, great for visual learners. The only downside is it is very practical over historical, and this is on purpose. The book does not deep dive into things like wine regions, regional histories, things like that. Because of what they're covering, they don't have time for that kind of thing. So they're not nearly as in depth as some of the other books in the more technical side of the ilk, but that's okay. The other thing is brand focus is kind of low. So if you're looking to know certain major name drops, especially as you get into the intermediate and advanced levels of wine knowledge, Wine Volley is not the first place that I would look in the books. They have excellent content online, and you can certainly get that. But again, they like me, they very much approach wine in a holistic fashion, in a consumer first fashion. So I really appreciate that about them as well. Again, I think it's very purposeful that it isn't about name dropping who's 100 point this, that, or whatnot. It is much more about understanding the styles, the traditions, the flavors, and how to bring it into your world. So, very, very cool stuff. So let's see. We've got last but and certainly not least, we're going to dig into the more technical side of things. And the last there is the Flavor Bible. And actually, this is the one that I'm going to combine into two. It's the Flavor Bible and Culinary Artistry. These are two separate books done by a husband and wife pair, Karen Page and Andrew Dornenberg. And this came around in my life. Where in my experience this became kind of came to my view was a little bit more into my advanced wine knowledge after becoming a sommelier. But when 90% of my wine tastings started coming in up as food plus wine shows, and a lot of my sommelier knowledge was devoted, or the question, not knowledge, but rather the question base that I get, we've got I got lots of questions about food. And when food and wine started becoming so key to my world, I decided that I really needed to take my wine knowledge and my food passion rather, and really kind of get a little bit leveled up. So these two books are so well presented as what is it good for? It's for amateur chefs who really want to get their skills leveled up. It's so well presented in this style and food combination, and really a deep dive into how flavor functions together at the practical levels. They talk about flavor affinities. They talk about standout options within those. In other words, where they're not only flavor affinities, but where there are superior combinations, if not ethereal and just godlike versions. It's great for people that really want to understand this and that harmony and how to apply that to food and wine and life. I cannot say enough positive things about this and how easy it is to use practically. So we asked something earlier at the top of the show, but nobody's answered yet. Give me a topic of food, either a type of food, a flavor, a regional or a style of food. First person to put it in there. We're going to demonstrate how easy and awesome it is to use this book and why it's so darn cool for those of you in the kitchen and at the cellar. I want to catch up with the chat here. Angela's interested in bumper stickers. Well, don't worry, we'll get those on. So honk if you're in for the wine world. Also, it's warming SoCal, so that's good for Mark. Said it's gotten cool here, so we flipped around again. They had snow last time for the show, so. And Reba says she's read The Wine Avenger and it was an interesting read. She said, I haven't read Wine Folly. Definitely look for it. All right, Dave and Mary have picked duck. Our topic is duck. So we're going to go through the book here, and it is alphabetized, right? There's a major section on how flavor works at the beginning, but the bulk of the book is devoted to these specific topics. So all we got to do is go through here, look for D, and a U, and a C, and a K. Dandelion greens, I'm a little bit shy yet. Feta cheese, I've gone too far. Let's see. Eggplant is not quite there. Where is my duck? Duck! Excellent. So the duck, I mean, so you'll see that I can see if I can show you here. This whole page on duck here that you're seeing is a great example of example dishes. All the stuff that's blocked out in yellow are dishes to attempt. But then the main entry, reads duck. It's what seasonal flavor it tends to go under. So duck is generally considered an autumn flavor affinity. It's food weight. Where does it lie? Is it a light food, heavy food? This is a heavier style of food. Volume. It is a moderate to loud volume in flavor. Okay. This is great when we talk about intensity of flavor. Volume of flavor is also their word for it. I love so that they're telling you what to expect out of this type of food item. Then, of course, we have some of the cooking techniques you might see with duck. Braising, especially the legs, grilling, especially the breast, roasting, sauteing, and stir frying. Then they basically alphabetically list a group of flavors that work well with duck, and then a summary of how it is. So you've got things like allspice and bay leaf and bok choy and carrots and celery and farro and fennel. Okay, they all of these are cross-referenced as well. So not only do you have a list of these things that's very practical, you've got items in bold that are superior choices, and then you've got items in bold caps that are really excellent at making flavor affinity with this. For instance, apples, especially Granny Smith apples, are a superior choice when it comes to duck. Things like garlic, ginger, lemon juice, and cherries all play into the duck flavor affinity. So this is just great if you like to create your own foods. If you're looking for matching options at the table, Flavor Bible is just brilliant. And when you're in the actual kitchen portion of it, culinary artistry goes along that same line. I would say to even a more technical, detailed level. What I love is it's also just about duck. You can do things like, Indian food, and they will give you the topic of Indian food, the flavors that are generally associated with Indian cuisine in different areas, and then what flavors then go along. Angela talked about wines with barbecue. Okay, well, let's see. And again, now this, remember, isn't wine focused, but we're looking for barbecue as a flavor, right? You go into here, and what it's going to ask you first is, and I'm going to ask you as well, well, my question to you is, well, what style of barbecue? Are we talking about, Texas barbecue, which is generally tomato-based sauces that are spicy, right, or kind of piquant? That is, a one particular type of barbecue. Very different than, say, Kansas City barbecue, which tends towards tomato style sauces that are sweeter, or say Carolina style barbecue, where you've got sauce that's based in vinegar. Well, barbecue is also not just one thing, but let's see what we get if we look up barbecue in particular. Blackberries, Belgian cuisine, bell peppers, beer, beef, more beef, lots of beef, beans of various flavors, lots of subgroups with those. And because it's a preparation method, they ought to have it in here. Bananas. We're looking here. Basil bass stripe. We got lots of bass. We're going from bass to bay leaf, and I can't find barbecue. There's basil, balsamic, bananas, barley. Yeah, apparently they're not using it as BARBQ. So I don't think they're doing that as a style. They may have. I know there will be a sub style within here, possibly under the preparations method. So anyway, still fantastic book. One should absolutely try it out. So those two are separate books that are with similar purpose. Whereas the Wine Folly books, I'm counting as one as a more evolved edition. But any one of them you want to get a hold of, highly encourage. And then, of course, the more encyclopedic and the more amusing editorials. So check those out. I will provide links down below just if you guys want to go on Amazon, grab them, grab versions on your Kindle, grab real versions, whatever you say. I'll send you to Wine Folly's actual store because Wine Folly they will offer great packages where you can get the books and the wheels and a map and all kinds of fun stuff. So very, very highly recommended. But yeah, so go out there, do some wine reading, get wine smart. Certainly love the idea that there's more to learn than just by doing, but these are great points for idea making, right? I mean, a lot of the process that I do between trying out new wines, trying out new recipes, entertaining folks at shows, and choosing the recipes that I'm going to do within that triumvirate comes with this little sub process of finding a recipe, using stuff like the Flavor Bible to kind of analyze what's in there, match that up with wines I've tried, and seeing where these things Venn diagram in and form that perfect harmony of, oh, we've got to try this with that. So certainly something I think if you're interested in the topic, you guys can check out. All right. Well, then that means now it is time for the grocery store grab. And today on the grocery store grab, I got to go past all my wine things again. Apparently it didn't stop. Past our books to Toad Hollow Chardonnay, the unoaked Chardonnay. Now, I didn't find the appropriate label for mine. This is the 2018. Mine happens to be the 2016, but just FYI. This was a great example of what we look for here at the grocery store grab. For those of you that don't know, the grocery store grab is our attempt to focus on the label. We get the best value per dollar for wines found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. If you happen to shop at the grocery store because you have to, or because of convenience, this is a great way to select your wines. We do not choose them with prior research. We let the label do the talking for the wine, and we try and talk and grade wines based on how well their label tells us what we should be expecting. So while I am a sommelier, I only use kind of the basic knowledge that we have on here to know. We kind of assume that if you're a wine drinker here, that you may not know what you're looking for. So the front of the label, of course, is is simply marketing space. It's how they get your attention, and this kind of falls into that category of if you put animals on the label, people tend to buy it. For whatever reason, this Nielsen thing has proven to be a story of old, is that animal-based wines. You might also have heard the old wives' tale of stay away from, wines that have animals on the label, which is also complete and utter nonsense. But Toad Hollow. What I did was I was browsing the aisle and browsing the aisles there, and then went and found the back of the label. But this is where this wine stood out. I've seen this wine around. In fact, I probably have had this in the course of my wine career. But when I looked at the back label of this bottle, I was very impressed with, and unfortunately, I could not find a good graphic example online. Even though I downloaded that image directly from their website, they don't have their back label, which made me mad. So I'm going to try and show you a little bit here, if I can get the light to not overwash it. But I want to show you mostly right here. What you see is it's got this graphic. It's graphically oriented into separate sections, specifically for the wine itself, the food, the craft of making it, and the grapes themselves. So the 2016 Unoaked Chardonnay, clean, crisp, and full flavored with hints of mango and melon, and a rich, creamy mouthfeel. Well, first off, when we look at the label, what do we want to know? We want to know what's in the bottle. Answer, Chardonnay. Hooray, we've got that. Where it's from. On the front of the label, it actually not only tells you that it's Mendocino County, this is specifically called Franchines Selection, which likely means that they're doing a specific lot or group of vineyards, specific blocks. But anyway, we know what's in it. It is unoaked Chardonnay because that is a marketing word we're going to talk about in just a little while. But they've got a whole section there, and they've told us nice specific flavor words. We've got mango, we've got melon, we've got rich and creamy mouthfeel. We know what to expect when we put it in our face. Next thing that we really like to see is food pairing. Flavor words are great, but if they give us food pairings, I consider that a level above. And this wine definitely hit it out of the park with that. Their food pairings say pair with herbed chicken, braised pork, grilled shellfish, and sushi. Great with goat cheese and Gouda. A treat for the senses. Now, that's a great example where there's I think they're specific enough. Sushi, for instance, is a pretty broad category. I mean, it's a lot of different flavors in there, so that's a little bit too broad. But when they talk about stuff like Gouda or goat cheese, when they've got the examples like, herbed chicken, they're talking about using herbs, not just chicken and with something else. So that's at least a little bit down the road in the right direction and gives you, I think, actionable choices as opposed to saying words like pasta or nothing at all. Then they said they seriously crafted from 3 Mendocino County vineyards that produce fresh, bright flavors on Chardonnay. In other words, they're trying to tell you why this is important about where it's from. Mendocino, I should have put up a map. I apologize for not thinking of that beforehand, is up northwest of Sonoma and Napa along the coast. So it's a northern growing area. Very cool climate. It is whole cluster picked and pressed, racked and chilled to 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Slow fermentation process to retain fruity characteristics, then age on the yeast lees until bottling. Absolutely no oak. Now, this is a little bit of wine technicality, but this is where I think they're doing a good job. They're being very transparent about their creation method, especially to get people out of that ABC problem. You may have heard me talk about this in various shows. ABC are the anything but Chardonnay people. And Chardonnay, unfortunately, has its limitations with a lot of people who are very judgmental because they've tried a particular style of Chardonnay that comes in as over-oaked and overly malolactic fermentation, suffering from a full malolactic, which makes it very creamy and buttery. Those two in combination, especially with low quality fruit, can produce an absolutely abysmal wine that is suited only for Karens who have already pissed off the manager. So anyway, this shows you, again, you have to know a little bit about wine, about why some of these things are important. For instance, why are they chilling to 52 degrees? Okay, what they're doing, not the number specifically, but the fact that they're using cold fermentation to maintain acidity. They're preventing malolactic fermentation. Well, they don't specifically mention it. That slow fermentation process and retaining fruity characteristics. They're trying to tell you this is fruit-filled, not a butter bomb. Okay. And then, of course, the absolutely no oak reminder. Being aged on the yeast lees, the yeast cells staying in there add a very interesting flavor profile. That's what adding some of the robustness to this wine by letting those yeast cells hang around. Similar in style to what you might see out of the big bubbly wines of France like Cremant de Bourgogne and Champagne. So, all right, so let's go ahead and find out how well they've done at telling us what's in the bottle and see if we enjoy this. We'll catch up with Chad again. I mean, it's extra points if it's a dog on the label, says Reba. All right, well. And Tia's saying, I think people are drawn to animals. Surprised it's not all puppies and kittens and human babies. You guys are both correct. The thing is, animals are identifiable and they're also memorable. So if you remember what was on the label of something you like, it's probably a little bit easier if you saw, a penguin, a Sasquatch, a little fluffy bunny, as opposed to remembering a specific name, right? It's hard enough for us to remember names of people we've met and interacted with. It's especially hard after a bottle of wine and you threw the bottle out. So, I don't know, wine's similar to one night stands or something in there. There's a whole thing. But anyway, let's find out what the wine tastes like. So, we kind of look at 3 aspects of the wine here. We're not looking at do a full review of the wine here. Mostly, Is it well executed? Is it on style for the region? And is it worth the price tag? So, first things first, this has a nice gold straw color. It is very indicative of its Chardonnay heritage from the moment you pour it in the glass. And it said nice crisp highlights. Again, unflawed, ready to drink wine. Good stuff. On the nose, now it definitely has a sense of the yeast lees are something here that I think some people might mistake for oakiness, but it's not. There's a bready, toasty nature to this that if this is an unoaked Chardonnay, isn't coming from the oak staves. Instead, it's coming from that on-leaf fermentation. And it's got this kind of goaty, cheesy kind of thing going on there. It's really nice. It's very heady. There's a hint of warm tropical fruits in there, a little bit of the thing on that pineapple type scale. I believe that they mentioned mango and melon. I think this is a little bit, I would call this more starfruit and pineapple than mango. But then again, when was the last time I had a Carmen Miranda level fruit extravaganza? And I need to go probably do some practice on that. So I recommend it for all of you. We'll do one of these tastings where we'll bring in all the fruits and we'll match all the wines. It'd be great. So very much we said on the warmer side on that. Oh yeah. Big mouthfeel, solid yeast profile. I mean, it's got this richness to it. It's got this creaminess that definitely lives there. And it's not just all bright fruit. Now, the acid is very tempered as far as white wines go. It is not a high acid white, but then again, Chardonnay is usually generally not. But it hasn't lost its brightness completely. Still makes your mouth water gently, a little bit at the sides of your tongue, a little bit at the front of your mouth, but you don't feel it really in that nice solid, that salivary gland sour pinch that you get from higher acid whites like say Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Pico Pil, things like that. It doesn't. It's not. But then again, it's not supposed to be, right? This is a Chardonnay, and it's not going to have that profile. But it's got enough to last it. It's got enough to carry that fruit, makes your mouth water, cleanses your palate. And again, it's this interesting, the front of it almost has a Meyer lemon and star fruit kind of thing going on. It reminds me of yellow fruits, right? It very hits in that gold band is where all my brain goes. That's why I'm not thinking about mangoes, which are, bright color, bright orange. So I don't think about them in that same tone. But this is very much on that style. So really, when we answer those questions, is it well executed? Yeah. For the price point, which by the way I forgot to mention, $17 listed before the club price. This is a $13 Chardonnay, so this is just under that middle 15 point that we kind of look around for real value kind of wines that are really doing the job right. Is it well executed? Absolutely. No flaws here. They definitely see, they're really talking to you about how they produce their wine, which I think is a great degree of transparency. And it shows in their end product that it is well crafted. Is it on style? For certain. This is what Chardonnay drinkers, especially in California, are looking for when they want to stay away from the oak bombs. It's not Chablis style. It's fleshier, more robust, and has much more mouthfeel. It doesn't have that racy, saline, chalky minerality that a Chardonnay from Chablis is going to have. But instead, this is California Chardonnay, as it ought to be, in yours truly's opinion, where you've got a bit of fruit in there. You're letting the yeast do some of the job. Now, again, you could treat this with a little oak, in my opinion, and not ruin it. But the problem is, even if you mention the word in mixed company, people start to gasp, point, lose their brains, and act like they're probably just traumatized by having tan bark thrown at them in the playground as children. I think that's really where a lot of the fear comes from. That and, maybe sticking some of that tan bark in your mouth while you drank Chardonnay will permanently put you off the stuff. It's like you hear people have, I've got a bad tequila story. Well, people also have bad Chardonnay stories in my world. So Reba says, it sounds like a Chardonnay you'd be willing to try. Yeah, I think this is that style that you would find where warm tropical fruit and a little bit of acid and nothing on the oak scale at all. But the yeast makes the difference. I think I really like that. In fact, it's something that I'm kind of putting a mental note for me to go check back with some of my other producers that I like and find out whether they do on leaf fermentation, because I think that is part of the richness, that middle mouth feel that you get, that I may have misidentified before as actual oaking. So, always ever learning, my friends, always ever learning. Last question: is it worth the price tag? Oh, for 13 bucks? Sure. I mean, and if you're this is not a write home to the family and tell them to sell all their Bitcoin and move to Mendocino County to buy Chardonnay, but it's absolutely what you'd expect as a good quality example. If you're entertaining at an event where you're just doing if you've just got to have a couple of selections and you want to put a Chardonnay on there because it's a hit with most people, it's a great choice, and it especially because it'll show off the fact that you know the difference between something that's been bludgeoned with an oak bat and something that has more elegance and tropicality. So, high recommend. But okay, so I'm open to your questions. So we still got about 15 minutes before I gotta be anywhere. Although you guys are between me and Chinese food, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming soon. We'll talk about upcoming shows. Um, as I spoke at the beginning of the show, the date night wine presentation is now available. So you should definitely check that out on wineshark.com. You too can earn yourself and buy yourself a cool little, WineShark bamboo cutting board and ceramic knife and 2 glasses and my company for just a little bit. A couple of bottles of wine, and I'm there for you to set off for your own romance. Then we've also got this weekend we're going to do port pairings on Friday evening. So we're going to dive into the difference between vintage and late bottle vintage port. While they do share a word, they are very different styles and undergo a lot of different considerations. So we're going to go down the process tree that is the port world, and it's very fascinating. I really enjoy the wine style. For those of you that are into robust drinks at all, I highly recommend it. I also find it's an interesting middle point for people that like both things that are sweet and people that like more robust wines. I am not a huge sweet fan, for instance, when it comes to wines, but I certainly enjoy port in many of its variations, these two in particular. And we're going to be trying the 2017 vintage port. So that's a pretty cool. It's actually a pretty highly rated year. So I'm looking forward to getting a piece of that. Then the weekend Saturday, we will be down at Reunion Tower, and I say we, I mean myself and Two Penny Beer. So we will be down doing a beer and wine show combo. It is from 3 to 5 p.m. So it's an afternoon show. Got to get you warmed up and send you on to your St. Valentine's Day romance. But we're going to do a wine and beer and food pairing. So 3 different food courses, each with a wine and beer pair for you to enjoy, and with the wonderful views 500 feet above downtown Dallas. So there's another Events with Amy affair. So I will be hosting at her leisure, and we're going to have a great time. Also, the 2 weeks from then, so that would be the 27th, we will be doing a Girl Scout cookie pairing. 4 different Girl Scout cookies with micro samples of wine or micro samples of beer or both, depending on how you choose. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's out on the 27th. And then the night before that, we'll be back online. We're going to do South African wine heritage. Just an overview, we're going to do a deep dive yet. I would say this is basic to intermediate level, but it's because I'm really looking forward and looking for the ability to try out some harder to get South African wines, but hold on that one. As soon as I find the right place to get them, I wanna get down there and show off. But for now, we're going to talk about some of their really easy to find, kind of underrated wine area of the world, and I think that's going to be a very cool off the beaten path experience. So, port, date night wines, Valentine's Day special, South Africa, and Girl Scout cookies all this month. Tickets for next month's wine show will be up here pretty soon too. I will have those done before the weekend. So that's March 13th. It's not going to be St. Patrick's Day themed. I promise I'm not going to make you drink green wine. We are instead going to go with a spring fling theme. So we'll go with all kinds of fun stuff. So Reba says, yes, there will be more merch. I promise more merch. I will be working on t-shirts and other things and even a cool, really secret, not, well, it won't be secret once I announce it because, but as yet, the preview is the idea behind some cutting board stuff that I've got going on. Not just these, but stuff for purchase where you don't need yours truly and you can enjoy wine and cheese and charcuterie on your own. So, any other questions so far? So, all the food talk made me hungry. Cooking down butter scallops with lemon caper sauce with fennel. Ooh, fennel salad and polenta. Recipe you said is doing 20 minutes. So, all right. Well, then that is so 90. Nice. Okay, the answer there by Tina is you need to check out my new favorite little esoteric from southern France. Check out Picopile. Picopile is this nice little racy white from southern France that is a great seafood partner. And then, of course, you could always go with Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand because I'm never not going to love that wine with anything that starts with a scal and ends with an op. So I even found a recipe that I'm going to try out for scallops, a Julia Child's scallops au gratin this week. So what is better than scallops and butter and cheese? Answer, nothing. I'm afraid you're wrong. There is nothing better than those things. So, all right, yes, Laszlo. Oh, no, Laszlo wants to say hello to the crowd. Dog. All right, get down. Off. You're done. I love you, but be there. So spell that. Ah, excellent, excellent. Hold one. Picpil. Picopil de Poney. And in fact, there's a great little Wine Folly article I will post for you here as well. Because again, this is just about Languedoc region, but I used this when I was making experimental French food last night. I was making cassoulet for the first time. So chicken and sausage and white beans and richness and white wine and a lot of thyme. Very Provençal food. So check those out, Miss Tina, and those will be excellent examples for your food. The example that I found of the Pic Pou de Panay is was only about $11 at Total Wine. So, and it is very much a high acid white. It is racy like the Mach 5. Let me tell you, it will. If you're acid averse, it is not your friend. It is kind of, if you look the wrong way, your cheeks might implode. Very welcome. So, any other questions from anybody while we're here? No? I mean, I'm gonna let the delay sink in. I've always got to remember that now. So, you could be furiously typing and then I simply went away. And it made me feel bad. But yeah, Toad Hollow Chardonnay. Check it out. Highly recommend. Been doing pretty good. I'm very pleased with some of the grocery store grab, both from their labeling options. We've had some really good examples of well-made wines that have well-made labels. There is hope for us all yet. And yes, Reba says she loves cooking French food. I certainly agree and appreciate. I mean, I've tried many many things, but cassoulet is one of the things that I had been trying to get around to. Now I did what's called a lazy cassoulet. So it basically used pre-cooked beans, so you can get done in about an hour. But when reading about the traditional ones, this is a process that it's like any other cooking beans process. Low, slow, and long is the way to go. And that sounded a lot less dirty before I said it. But anyway, the idea that you really layer in flavor over a long period of time. You're using ham hocks and beans, and then you're building in, and at the very end, you're kind of cooking down onions and some tomato paste and white wine, and you're throwing in your whatever meat you have on hand. Chicken, sausage, and pork sausages are usually kind of the typical fare. But one recipe I saw said there's a 3.5 day process for this, where you basically a cassoulet, you warm it up, it gets hot and it bubbles up, and then you cool it, let it cool, and then you cook it again the next day and let it cool, and then cook it on the next day and let it cool, and it's edible on day 4. And it's edible the whole way through, but it's like finally finished. It's at its peak. and then the very top of the bean pan, when you put in the chicken thighs, for instance, you put them so that the skin side is up, so they've got that rendered fat, this like almost blackened layer on top with all this caramelization, and you keep punching it down and starting it over, and it's like I'm totally down for a 4-day bean recipe. I some sort of masochist in me is gonna make this as a weekend and a half project, right? Especially because it's cold weather outside. Cassoulet is definitely where you want to be in the comfort food world. So I will, for those that I will spell that in the chat for you. That's the cassoulet. So that's cassoulet, and this is the rest. Let me see. I'll share the recipe real quick that I made last night. WineShark recipes, main dishes, poultry, lazy chicken and sausage cassoulet. This was from Food and Wine magazine. So check this out. Do check those out. I give this to you there. And with that, I say thank you very much for joining me. Hope to see you guys at one of the events here coming up soon, either online or if you are comfortable and safe with our socially distanced versions out there in WineShark in the wild. As for comments, what are your favorite wine books? Have you guys come across a book that helped get you into wine and helped you kind of along your journey, or even wine magazines, things like that? But let me know in the comments after the show. And if you like what we're doing, share with a wine-loving friend. You got to like and subscribe to the channel, but share it with your friends. We are just count them, 2 subscribers away from the very special Flynn Markley Does WineShark Wednesday show, okay? Because we will be at 100 subscribers. To thank you to all of you guys who followed me. Your support is amazing, and I gotta say, I've been so pleased to go on this journey with you guys. So check us out. If you're just a couple more people, you'll get to see me do a weird English accent for the entire time, and it'll be totally done. Then anyway, if you really like what we're doing, check us out over on Patreon. Patreon, there's a whole different level of support, but you get all kinds of cool benefits, including discounts to shows, special content, video archive access to all of the online tastings that we do. We've started doing recipe shares. I've also started putting out. The January list is done and will be published tomorrow for all the wines and wine tasting notes from January. So we've got lots of cool benefits over there. So if you have a couple of bucks to spare every month, throw it to yours truly, and you get all kinds of cool wine stuff. So guys, thank you all very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wine Wednesday. And remember, there's never enough time for all the wine in the world, but just take the time that you've got. Until we meet each other next time, I've been your WineShark. Cheers. Oh, Laszlo. Oh, Laszlo. You're a very needy boy.